Okay, let's take a look now at color, which I think is the most complicated art element and takes the longest time to understand. And in fact, you can spend an entire semester studying color. And I do teach a class here at Parkland called Color Theory, in which we do just that. But let's look at it this way. Visible light is comprised of a continuum of color zones due to the range of wavelengths in electromagnetic radiation. Perhaps you've seen a rainbow and you recognize the color of rainbows. So, color is a property of light that reflects off of objects, not of the objects themselves. So, Isaac Newton famously proved this by focusing a ray of light on a glass prism. The different wavelengths are refracted in different degrees, thus, the visible spectrum of light is seen. So there are three properties of color: hue, value, and chroma. And let me define and give you visual examples of each one. So hue is the appearance of a spectral color due to its wavelength. So blue looks different than green because it has a different wavelength than green. We use primary, secondary, and intermediate color names to describe hue. So in when we're discussing things in terms of art elements, we do not use popular consumer names to identify hue. So if you look at the color of this wall or its swatch, the color of the room is red violet with a violet overtone. It's dark in value and has a moderate saturation. And yet here in this demonstration here, the color is called vintage grape, and that is a title of a product given by the manufacturer. It's not a useful description of hue. The color wheel is a useful way to organize the pure hues and establish meaningful interactions between these hues. A scientist and an artist named Johann Eaton improved on previous color wheels, which either included few or too many colors to be useful. The Eaton color wheel contains three primary hues: red, yellow, blue, three secondary hues: green, orange, and violet, and six tertiary hues, which would be red, violet, red, orange, yellow orange, yellow green, blue green, and blue violet. The sequence of colors is that of the visible spectrum of light, so the same thing that we would see separating light with a prism. The 12 hues are evenly spaced with complementary colors diametrically opposed to each other. So, for instance, violet and yellow are complementary to one another. Now, artists know that there's a special relationship there. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color as compared to a gray scale. So here we've got the top here is a sample of colors that are at full saturation, as they're all very bright, and they're matched by value to the gray swatches below. So you can see that every color has its own intrinsic value. So red, bright red, is actually quite a dark color. And yellow is the lightest color. Now, chroma, which is also referred to as saturation or intensity, is the brightness or dullness of a color. There are four levels of chroma. Prismatic color is pure and bright. Muted color is somewhat duller than prismatic color. A chromatic gray looks really dull, but the original hue can be detected. An achromatic gray is without hue and it's just grayscale, like the value scale we saw in the earlier screencast. In the text, the authors explain color schemes, and while there are color schemes and artists and designers understand them, I think it's a little more enlightening to understand color harmony and discord and not color schemes, which are essentially recipes for color harmony. A color harmony is created when there is a balance between similarities and dissimilarities of colors in a given artwork. And a color discord is created when there are more similarities between colors than there are, more dissimilarities between colors than there are similarities. So here you've got this portrait on the right, which is by Edgar Degas. And this is a harmonious use of color. There are two colors that are dominant, and you might not be able to see them right off the bat. They're blue and they're orange, and we're seeing muted orange and muted blue. So this color here in the hair and the color in the scarf and the color of the face is related to orange or red orange. It's a lighter version of orange, a tint we call it, and it's a fairly muted color. And so those colors, their dissimilarities are played down and their similarities are played up. So it's a harmonious color scheme. In this case, the colors are all very vivid. That is, the saturation level is very high, or the chroma level is very high. And so we've got orange, red, orange, and green, violet, and blue, and yellow green, and they're all very highly saturated, and so their dissimilarities are I think, dominant, and we call this relationship discordant.